This is Books for Breakfast, a podcast where we talk about books and writing. I'm Enda Wiley.
And I'm Peter Sir.
And you're all very welcome to this morning's show.
On today's show, we travel down the road to Carlow University Pittsburgh's MFA in Creative Writing programme during its annual June residency at Trinity College Dublin, where we have been invited to interview novelist Caitríona Lally about her latest work, the memoir, Home Economics. So, grab that flat white, latte, tea and rasher sandwich and have a listen to Caitríona's fascinating account of balancing life as a cleaner in the housekeeping department of Trinity College with the life of a mother of 2 children and a life as a successful writer.
So, good afternoon, everyone. We are delighted to be here today on the invitation of Carlow Pittsburgh MFA programme and to be in conversation with the writer Caitríona Lally about her latest book, Home Economics. But just first, a few words about her work to date.
So, Caitríona Lally's first novel, Eggshells, which is a kind of quirky telling of the story of Vivian, a kind of an oddball who believes in herself, or believes herself to be a changeling, an unemployed orphan living in her grandaunt's house in North Dublin. It came out in 2015. It won the 2018 Rooney Prize for Irish Literature and a Lannan Literature Fellowship for Fiction in 2019. And it was a kind of a daring, exciting debut, full of wordplay. It followed Vivian's progress around Dublin as she sought a kind of portal to another world.
Sounds exciting.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. So Wunderland, her second novel, came out in 2021. And in this novel, we encounter Roy, recently exiled from Ireland, a cleaner in a miniature exhibition in Hamburg called Wunderland. When he is visited by his sister Gert from Dublin, a family narrative develops that sensitively reveals family and mental health issues. And both novels, we think, are really original. They're quirky, they're funny, they're moving all at once. And it's no wonder that the reviews were absolutely stellar. The Irish Times said when writing about it, it's beguiling, it's inventive, funny and ultimately moving, said The Guardian. Wildly funny, the New York Times book review said. So now, to add to Caitríona's inspiring work, has come a new book. It's called Home Economics. It's just published by New Island here in Dublin in 2026. It's a smart, funny, illuminating memoir which tells of the 6 years after her first novel. So that's between 2015 and 2021, and Caitríona's efforts to juggle working in the housekeeping department of Trinity College, writing her second novel, Wunderland, and, as if this isn't enough, being a mother of 2 young children. So how can she possibly manage all these creative and financial demands and write a second book? Well, we're soon going to find out, because Caitríona Lally is sitting here with us at the breakfast table, and you are very welcome to Books for Breakfast, Caitríona.
Great. Thanks, Enda and Peter. I'm delighted to be here.
Okay, it's great to have you here. So we're just wondering, Caitríona, would you start off by reading us a piece from Home Economics? I think it's the one that you chose, and it's always really exciting when writers choose a piece from their own book. It's about cleaning, isn't it? The old library in Trinity.
Yeah, so, well, thanks everyone for coming here. Delighted to see you all. I picked a bit about cleaning the old library because I'm sure you've seen it, or you're going to see it in the next few days. And this is from 10 years ago. So now I know they've started taking out all the books, but back then it was, the gift shop was underneath it and the books were all still there. I'm tasked with cleaning the old library and Book of Kells. To get there, I enter the arts block, go down the stairs past the supervisor's office, through the usually alarmed fire exit door into the lower ground floor of the Leckie Library, walk the red carpet through the Leckie, up the few steps into the Berkeley foyer, take a sharp turn left, down a half flight of steps into the study space, through an innocuous looking fire door, up the steps, walk along the tunnels where buckets catch raindrops from leaks, go around the corner, call the ancient clanky lift and get jolted out at the long room, the main chamber of the old library. Or I knock on the locked door of the gift shop and wait for the cleaner to notice me over the sound of her hoover and let me in. The long room is, as the name suggests, fairly long. It was built in the early 1700s with the barrel-vaulted ceiling and more bookcases added in 1860, when the original shelves were full. The The shelves were full because since 1801, Trinity had been given the right to claim a free copy of every book published in Britain and Ireland. I'm torn between pride that my book will be claimed by Trinity and bafflement by how a wealthy institution won't pay for the books. I love being here on my own, surrounded by hundreds of thousands of musty old books and marble busts of dead, thinky men. A bulb is on the fritz in one of the alcoves. It fizzes and flashes, adding to the atmosphere. I buff the brown lino of the floor that runs the length of the long room library, those 65 metres putting the long into the long room, almost the length of an indoor running track. Every buffer machine is different, like temperamental elderly relatives with their own peculiar habits and notions that you have to adapt to. The cleaner I'm covering for has me trained in on the vagaries of this particular buffer, where to rest the machine, low on your hips, how to gently manoeuvre it side to side, how to go with it rather than force it. Like a lot of cleaning tips, a metaphor for life maybe. I'm fairly confident, but confidence is of no use the first day I buff alone. I walk the length of the floor, buffing gently from side to side, then turn slowly to buff the next strip of lino, like a groundsman mowing a football pitch. On one of my turns, I twist the machine too quickly, and it takes umbrage, skiting off in its preferred direction, knocking me off my feet before scudding across the floor and bashing into a glass case containing a folio of a precious manuscript. I'm dazed on the floor, crawling frantically across the lino, wondering how much damage is done if I'll have to pay for it. Fortunately, the machine is shaped like a capital L. The bumper part of the buffer has crashed into the metal bottom of the case. The glass display is intact. I coax it back into obedience, like a contrary pet, and we sway gently together over the next couple of weeks, getting up the most satisfying shine on the brown lino, easily provable if I haven't the work done. Part of my job in this area is dusting the leather-bound books with a feather duster at 9 a.m. as the first coachloads of American tourists arrive. They take pictures shouting, "Look, the janitor," while I duck and dive from the action shot, the wild beast going about her business in her natural habitat. Thank you.
That's great. And we all breathe a huge sigh of relief that case wasn't damaged, and you're still not having to pay for it. Thanks very much for that, Caitriona. And to start off with, I mean, one of the strongest themes in the book is the kind of the tension between creative work and economic survival. I mean, you've earned more money, you tell us, from cleaning than from writing. And that distinction is important. It's the reason you put cleaner, not writer, on passport or census forms. And I suppose the subtext is that, or one of the subtexts is that being a writer should surely, you think, pay more, but the economics just don't add up, do they?
No, and that quote actually about earning more from cleaning than from writing, that came from before I won the Lannan. Actually, the Lannan Prize was amazing. So that was $100,000, like spread out over a few years, which was life-changing for me. It paid for mortgage, childcare. Like it really opened doors for me. But until then, I had earned more from cleaning than from writing. And that was, like, I've never had a book deal ever. So I'm always just writing a novel, hoping that at the end of it, somebody accepts this thing and gives me a bit of cash for it. It's a strange way to live. And when I was trying to write this book, I realised it's completely daft, really. Like, as a practical financial model, it's not great. Like, to just hope for the best, And at the time when I started cleaning, before I had kids, so it made more sense then. It was when the kids came along, I thought, oh, hang on now, my outgoings are, they're fairly hefty, and my incomings are not great. So, but when I started cleaning, I took on a lot of overtime. So there's part-time cleaners are hired by Trinity who work 6 to 9:30 in the mornings. And a lot of women take either overtime hours in Trinity or they go on to clean schools or private homes. And so I took on a lot of extra hours cleaning to try and make up a salary. And my partner, who was very supportive, was saying, don't be doing the overtime, just concentrate on the writing. But it took a lot of confidence to say no to ready cash. Like there's an hourly rate in cleaning, there's no hourly rate in writing. And you're writing this book that may never be published. So it takes a lot of grit to kind of sit down at the desk when you're tired and keep at it.
That very much kind of comes across in the book, because you're racing between work and then, as you say, and two young children, and the children are often sick, and you're trying to pay creche fees. And in Ireland, childcare in Ireland, as we all know, those can be extraordinarily expensive. So it's like another mortgage. And so we get an impression of the sheer kind of exhaustion of it all. And at one point, you're there in the middle of trying to write and edit and mind the children, and there's an invasion of mice in your house. And you say, this is one of those moments I look at myself and wonder, how has it come to this? My younger self, who might have imagined a writing life as more elegant and sorted. And I mean, as throughout the book, you're very frank, and I'm wondering, like, was part of it, did you want to set out to expose the gap between how society maybe romanticizes the life of the writer, and then, on the other hand, the financial and emotional realities behind it?
I think it wasn't so grand as that. I think it was more a personal kind of exploration of, I was trying to figure out why it took me so long to write this novel. Like, why did it take 6 years to write it? My first novel seemed to come so easy. It was a joy to write. And I think that was because nobody knew I was writing it. It was a first novel. They are easier to do. But it was trying to figure out, okay, why? Because people would ask, why is this taking so long? Have you published your second book yet? And I think I just needed to figure out, okay, what is it? And when I set it all out, there were kind of 6 quite, in some ways, stressful but exciting years. And it was only when I started writing I realised the money part was important. I had tentatively called this book The Work. I was trying to write about different forms of work, the cleaning work to pay the bills, the writing work, and then the parenting work. So I was concentrating on that part. And it was only after I started writing and got like fairly halfway probably into the memoir that I realised that the money part is very important. And I was willing to be honest about, just how little money I've earned from royalties. Like, I've earned so little from royalties that for me it's been Arts Council bursaries, fellowships, that kind of thing has been phenomenal. And that's allowed me to continue. But sales, like, I'm very open about my sales record, and that's why I struggle to find a publishing deal each time for each book, because my sales record is, I think my agent said, tricky. That's how she put it, which is a nice euphemism, but it's very low. So, yeah.
Try being a poet, Caitriona. It's all very encouraging, isn't it, listening to Caitriona? There are, however, moments in the memoir of huge financial respite and joy, because, you did mention the Lannan there at a very low point. It was really low for you, Caitriona. I mean, Peter's mentioned the mice, but you were awarded the Lannan Prize, and it comes with, as Caitriona said, a hefty $100,000 prize. You can hardly believe it. And I love the bit in the memoir where your family, they don't believe it, like your mum and dad, and they say, if it's too good to be true, Caitriona, it's too good to be true. And they also say to you, cop yourself on. They really didn't believe it, and you really had to convince them that it was legitimate. And I was thinking of the poet Dennis O'Driscoll. He's now sadly dead. He was always very quirky, funny poet. You'd see him around town. But when he won it, he was asked by the Lannan Foundation what he was going to do. And he really disappointed them by saying he was going to pay off his mortgage. And equally, I think your response on hearing the news was not perhaps what the Lannan Foundation expected, was it?
No, it was Martha, this lovely woman from the Lannan. She had texted me or emailed me saying, could I take a phone call later? And I said, yeah. And I had never heard of the Lannan Foundation, and I was Googling it. And I remember I had a broken hand, and I was trying to cook macaroni cheese for my kids. And I was trying to one-handedly check on my phone, what is the Lannan Foundation? And I heard something about residencies. I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to have to say no. I think I had a 1.5-year-old at the time, or no, she was a 2-year-old and a young baby. And I was saying, okay, a residency in New Mexico sounds amazing, but I'm going to have to say no. And then later on, she rang me, and my partner, I remember, was in bed. The kids were in bed. And she said, are you sitting down? And I said, okay, why? And she said, yeah, you've just won 100,000. That we heard your reaction to winning 10,000 euro from the Rooney Prize, and this is a whole lot more. So it was amazing. But the first thing she said was, can you give up work, like my cleaning job? And I'd said, no, I can't give it up. Like, I can't give up that kind of stability of a permanent pensionable job. But she was saying, it's 100,000. I was like, yeah, but there's creche fees for 2 kids. There's medical fees, because my daughter was about to have hip surgery. It came at a very, I suppose, stressful time, but amazing. Like, what an amazing thing to get.
What an amazing thing. And I remember meeting you, Caitriona, because Caitriona and I used to meet after your shifts in Trinity at about 9:30 in the morning. We go for coffee, and you were telling me this, and I was going, "See, you've never heard of the Lannan," but the poets already knew about it. But no, it was so exciting, Caitriona. I remember it was so exciting,
and it's so lovely that I didn't know, and I still don't know who the judges are. Like there's these kind of secret panel of judges who pick you, which is it's just so lovely. I've no idea who they are.
I mean, one of the things, in home economics, one of the things that I very much liked is that you sort of challenge the idea, and we've been kind of touching on this, is that cleaning is something to escape from, and instead you present cleaning as meaningful, skilled work rather than as a symbol of failure or hardship. And in fact, like a lot of the media coverage framed your story as janitor wins big book prize. And it was as if the two parts of your life kind of couldn't compute for many people. The fact that you didn't want to stop cleaning was something that people sort of turned away from, almost like as if they were embarrassed, or it's as if somebody who chooses to do it, a cleaning job, can't also be a creative, imaginative artist. I wonder, did you feel frustrated by how your work and your life were often simplified like this by critics, even fellow writers, or people in general?
Yeah, I did find it frustrating because I would keep trying to explain myself, and then people would often say, "But why don't you teach?" Because that's the kind of natural, other route for writers to make money is to teach as well. And I don't have the confidence to teach. I just don't have whatever it takes to get up. I can do this because this is a conversation, right? It feels like, we're all on a level. But I feel I don't have the experience or whatever it takes to say, okay, this is how you write. So I chose physical work too. It just suited me. And when I was a student here in Trinity, 25 years ago, I'd cleaned in the housekeeping department. That was my summer job. And I'd stayed friends with some of the women I cleaned with. So it was them who told me when I started writing, they said, "Oh, Trinity, housekeeping is hiring again." And I reapplied then. And it was like coming home. Like I knew a lot of the women had retired since, but I did know a chunk of the women. I knew the area. And it is very satisfying work. And I suppose maybe that was part of the book as well, was to write my side of it, that how I prefer cleaning to, say, teaching or admin work or other like forms of writing like journalism or something, which take up a lot of your writing brain, I think. Like cleaning leaves my writing brain free, and it's so contrast to the work. That the physical work is done, and then you want to sit down at the laptop and write because it's so different from what you have been doing, and it feels like a rest to sit down. And
you're finishing very early because you're getting up very early. You're getting up like 5 o'clock in the morning, but you're finished at 9:30.
Finish at 9:30, which is amazing. And I do feel so smug, like when you go out front arch there at the gate and see people, walking to work and I'm finished work. It's a lovely feeling.
And then you get to go for breakfast. It's so nice.
Yes.
But there are actually lovely bits in the book where it's dark and you're travelling into Trinity. And then there was the Lewis began to take you in, and that was a huge transformation. But there's beautiful descriptions of the same people that you see. Isn't that right?
Yeah, there's the same kind of crowd. So it's the first Lewis I get in the morning, the tram that comes. So the Lewis tram Green Line crossed the city in 2017, I think it was. And so until then I had walked kind of 30 minutes walk to work in the dark, and then this Lewis coming was amazing. It's like a 10-minute trip door to door, Cabra to Trinity, and it's the same people. So I kind of got to know them. It's other cleaners, it's retail staff, warehouse staff, builders, and there's a bit of camaraderie because, like I say in the book, like sometimes at this time in the morning there are people who have been drinking all night or taking various substances, and there can be a bit of aggression sometimes, or someone is looking for a fight, and you have backup. Everyone there is kind of, we're just going to work.
Because there's a brilliant poem by Esther Morgan, and it's called While You're Sleeping, and it's like that secret world when everyone's asleep, but you were wide awake, Caitriona, and you were heading in. But I want to ask you a bit about another scene that really stuck with me. There's a scene where you meet a student working in a coffee shop. He's chatting away to you, and he sees your lanyard, and he's telling you, "Oh, you studied English. I studied English too." And then he sees your lanyard, and he thinks you must be a lecturer. And then he says, "Oh, sorry, you're lecturing now in Trinity?" And you say, "No, I'm a cleaner." And then suddenly his face just falls. So I think the memoir is really excellent at challenging assumptions about ambition and success. And that little scene just did it,
Yeah, and I could see his point. So he did the same degree I did here. He was, he's working in a coffee shop while he was studying, and he's hoping for something better. And he thinks, "Oh, okay, this is my future." And So
This is the future. But it's you're challenging him, though. It's interesting, isn't it? And of course, like, cleaners are essential to the college functioning, but they're often ignored by students and staff. And a rude student, for instance, knocks over your bucket, or some lecturers don't even notice you at all. And I think that there's a striking tension in the memoir between visibility and invisibility. It's very good. Would you like to talk a bit about that?
yeah, just to say, though, to clarify, most students and staff are lovely. There's a, we'll clarify that. You do get to know, one thing with Trinity is because you're not a contract cleaner, so it's not that there's different cleaners every day who are gone by the time the staff come in. We meet the lecturers, so the lecturers whose offices I clean, you get to know them. You're on first name terms with them. It's a lovely relationship, and you have great banter. But there are some who do look down on cleaners, or just don't want to know, or completely ignore you. And that incident I talked about, was a postgrad student who was in the arts block who literally completely blanked cleaners, and then knocked over me and my bucket of water one day when I was cleaning a window. And then I complained to another woman I was working with, and she said, oh, he did the same thing to me, and it's the same guy. And it was really bizarre. So there's some deep-seated anger towards whether women or cleaners, I don't know what, but it's so rare. That's why it made it into the book. So
yeah, it stood out. And also there was one funny bit where you were sitting on a chair in a lecturer's office, and you were just exhausted, and he comes in, you're thinking, oh my God, the chair is warm, and he's going to know that I was sitting on his chair. Yeah,
I know. I think I was pregnant at the time and sick, and I was really exhausted. The early mornings are hard. And I was trying to take a break, and this lecturer never came in early in the morning. You kind of, when you clean a certain area, you get to know who comes in early, who you'll see, and what offices are, free for a sneaky little break. But this guy suddenly came in. I was like, oh no. And I stood up from the chair, and I was pretending to polish his desk, and I was chatting to him and trying to make conversation, and he was having none of it. Like, he was obviously in a rush somewhere, and he kept moving closer. Like, oh, don't sit down. Please don't sit.
One of the things that's really kind of interesting or attractive about the book as well is your descriptions of the other housekeeping staff in Trinity College are so kind of warm and funny and affectionate and respectful. And like in the museum building during COVID, for instance, you're working double shifts singly, and so you leave kind of treats for each other. Like you leave a Toblerone and hand cream for your friend working alternate shifts, and she leaves treats for you. And you write very carefully about that kind of camaraderie within the workplace. I mean, it kind of teaches you a lot about work and friendship and solidarity, but also a bit of fun.
Yeah, I think so. And I think anyone who's worked kind of a low-waged, not very respected job has great camaraderie with their colleagues, because if people do treat you badly or ignore you or whatever, you have someone to run to. And that's always been for me the absolute joy of it, that there is probably more camaraderie in that kind of those low status job, because we're not competing with each other too. That's the other thing. Like, we're not in the corporate world where, we're all trying to get promoted or trying to stand on each other to get ahead. So there is no getting ahead. There's just, you're a cleaner or you're a supervisor, and most cleaners don't want to be supervisors. We don't want to be the boss. The fun is the camaraderie. And I write in the book about when you're in the museum building, which you probably know, the beautiful museum building with the old elk statues, and when the supervisor comes early in the morning to check up, if we're all having a sneaky break, you just scarp her. You just try and run. Everyone runs in different directions. And you can get caught because there's all these secret staircases with dead ends. You're like, oh no, I have to come back down again.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And I'm so jealous of you being there in the museum building early in the morning, because it's so beautiful, honestly. Go and find it, and even just look at it from the outside. It's so magical. But Peter said fun there, and there are huge moments of humour in this memoir, which you're all going to really enjoy. For instance, I love the bit where you're in the Douglas Hyde Gallery, just as you come in near the arts block there, and you pick up a crisp packet and you think it's rubbish, but it's actually part of the art piece. It's very funny. And then also, I love the bit where you've broken your hand, as you said, and you're there with the buggy, the children, you're trying to push the buggy, it's laden down with shopping, the kids, everything. You're just absolutely frazzled. And then one of your friends said, just seeing you like that, Caitriona, walking home so frazzled, absolutely convinced her that she was never going to have children. So I think humour is really important here, and you're really good at balancing sharp humour with reflection and vulnerability, and using humour as a way to illuminate something sometimes painful or uncomfortable rather than softening it. So does humour come easily to you, Caitriona?
I suppose, the humour of, especially like cleaning situations or parenting situations, the humour is naturally there, isn't it? Like it's so, especially parenting, it's so inelegant. Like there's nothing glamorous about, or the way I do it anyway. It's not like, the humour is kind of within the situation, doesn't it? And it's just kind of, I feel sometimes like a cheat because I'm just reporting back often what somebody else said to me and using it for for my own humour, but it's actually their, or their sharp statements, or like I think I'm surrounded by very witty family members who are great for one-liners, and I do credit them, but still I get known as the funny writer.
Because we're sitting here in Trinity College and we're talking to you here in Trinity Trinity as an actual place is very strongly, obviously, present in the memoir. It's almost like a character, I think, in its own right. And I love the way you describe all those hidden places, the tunnels and the staircases and the locked rooms and the eerie museum building at dawn, which is, by the way, still haunted by an 18th century lecturer, if anybody's here early, apparently. But working here must have kind of changed the way you saw the college as both a former student and now a worker.
Yeah, I think so. Like you do, when you're a student, I suppose you're always surrounded by crowds, for one thing. Like my memory of Trinity as a student is noise. There's lots of people waiting to go into lectures. You're sitting among crowds. So the silence of it is the big thing for me, just the sounds. And then, I suppose as a student, you feel more part of Trinity in a way. Like you feel, it's hard to explain, but the cleaners can be overlooked. Like I write about that a bit, like that, during COVID times or during storms, an email might be sent out by Trinity to, alumni and estates and facilities. And estates and facilities are basic cleaners and attendants and security. And we're told to come into work. And then alumni are told to stay home and keep safe. And there was that kind of very, contrasting part. There's like, okay, so my alumni side should stay at home, but the cleaner part has to get up and go into work. And it's like that's within the same email. And I found that kind of fascinating, that people couldn't see that contrast, that there's a lot of humans, like we're all humans, and I couldn't get that. So it's that side, on a day-to-day level, I wouldn't think much about it. But when those kind of times, it would be very forceful. Or I write about the summer I have my final exams. I cleaned in the arts block here, and I was covering for a cleaner who was cleaned the fourth floor where the English department was, and I cleaned an office that had my exam manuscript in the box. And that was kind of fascinating. I just remember looking at the box going, wow, like that's my former life in there. I'm finished now as a student.
You couldn't dive in and put like 100 and put it like an A,
Could, yeah. I know, but I was thinking if I was a maths student, I could have gone back and changed something, but an English student, there's not much you can do.
Well, Caitriona, you've spoken about parenthood being comical, which it is at times, but your reflections on motherhood are really raw sometimes, and especially around birth trauma, exhaustion, the loss of time and identity. And there's your daughter's illness too, which chickenpox morphs into group A strep infection, which leads to emergency surgery. So how did you decide what to reveal, and were there parts that you felt especially difficult to put on the page?
Yeah, so my daughter had a very difficult birth, and I wanted to write about that because it was such a huge part of those kind of 7 years. This was 2017. And I had really tried to get that second novel written before, like while I was pregnant with her. And I had been working at the novel for about 3 years then. And I wanted to get that written before she was born. I kind of figured it would be hard to do after. But then, it was a really difficult birth. And it ended with a birth injury for her. She had a facial nerve palsy, which meant she couldn't feed properly, so we had to feed her every 20 minutes and hold her little mouth shut. And so that was incredibly difficult. And obviously a first baby anyway is incredibly, it's life-changing and stressful, and it's gorgeous and beautiful and all the good things. But it really kind of, it messed with my head. And I remember a physio telling me, it's PTSD, it's post-traumatic stress. It's not postnatal depression, which I was so glad I didn't have. But there was PTSD. Like I kept going back to the birth as if I had done this, if I had gone this, and if I'd paid for private. And that's where the economics come back to me there, that if I had the money for private healthcare, people kept saying this wouldn't have happened. If you have a private birth, you get your own consultant, consultant obstetrician. You don't. The other one is midwife led, and there wasn't decisions made. And so anyway, this birth injury was it shouldn't have happened. That really stuck with me, and that did mess with my head for a long time. So it was very hard to get back into a novel where I felt like I've just made up these characters. It doesn't matter. Like, none of this is real. This child is real. She needs, like I say, feeding every 20 minutes for months. And so it changed my life. And then I think when she did get better, and she's completely better now, she's healthy as anything, but when she was 1.5, she got that sepsis, and that kind of, again, life just completely stops. And at the time, I think I was pregnant with my second child, and I was trying to organise, like, appearing in festivals and things, and trying to deal with people who were talking the practicalities of a writing life. And I was like, I can't even deal with this. Like, my child is, she had 2 emergency surgeries. If you have a 1-year-old in hospital, you're sitting on a chair non-stop. You can't move from her bedside. So it was really hard to write. Yeah. And it's very underwritten, I think. Like, I probably write much more about minor stresses than the major, because I just couldn't go back there. But there's also, like, humour afterwards. That's probably why I kept it short and then went back to reality and a bit of dark humour here.
And fair play to Caitriona for writing that down, because it must have been so difficult.
I'm just very interested in the form of the memoir, and it's written, anyone who picks it up will see, it's written in these kind of short sections, and each is kind of like a sustained unit of thought in a way. And you kept a notebook in your pocket at work, I think, to scribble down ideas. Your parents mind the children every now and then, so you can grab the time to write. I was just wondering, like, the idea, the form of the short sections, did that come about organically, or was it partly to do with managing time as well?
Yeah, partly managing time, and I think exhaustion and lack of concentration, that I couldn't sustain a deep narrative, or, like say a formal essay or something where you go deeper and deeper and in length and in profundity, I suppose. I couldn't do that, so I just kept it very fragmented. Some bits I joined up more at the end then. Yeah. Like longer form pieces about, say, like describing going from a student to a cleaner, those kind of things. And then I kept interspersing it with fragments, because I like white space. I do, like, even reading now, my concentration isn't amazing. So I like seeing a bit of white space. And then some fragments are completely, like, random and not linked to anything. They're just kind of thrown in around the place. So if it's getting a bit dark or heavy, I throw in a light-hearted story that might not be linked, but just I think, like, this needs something lighter.
And you love lists. Yeah. There's loads of lists in the book, aren't there, as well?
Lists I love, things about, like, I love about cleaning, things I've learned about my cleaning job, things I thought I would achieve on maternity leave. Now, that's a ridiculous list, yeah. I love lists, and I started my first book, Eggshells. The character was obsessed with lists. I just love them. They're a great way to contain the world, aren't they?
It's great in all your books to date. We go, oh, here she is again, lists again, or German compound nouns. You like those as well, Caitriona, don't you?
I do. They come in my second novel.
She's got certain things she likes. And obviously cleaning is a theme that's going throughout. But also, I mean, we're all readers here, and we sense that you're a mad reader as well. Like, you're reading a lot of books. So books come throughout the memoir. Thomas Mann and Mark Twain, they absolutely drive you crazy, don't they? Because they conveniently get out of any childcare, don't they? So they can write. And Virginia Woolf annoys you, doesn't she, Caitriona? Because she believes in the rights of women to vote, but not cleaning or domestic staff. So that really kind of so books, and also Lucia Berlin came into it. So do you want to talk a bit about the books? Or when you're setting out to write something like this, do you go to those kind of books to look, or did they just appear as you're writing?
They just appeared as I was writing. Yeah. So I would write something along a theme. So I was writing, I think, about the blind spot that a certain class of women sometimes have against cleaners. So they might talk about feminism, but yet it doesn't include, say, cleaners or their female childminders. There can be a bit of a blind spot, I think. And I wrote about Virginia Woolf in that context. And I love Virginia Woolf. I adore her writing. And that's what I saw too in the context of mental illness. Like, she was trying to manage a staff of servants when, like, I would hate to do that. I would hate to manage a staff, and if you're not feeling up to it. So I was trying to be forgiving towards her, but yeah, she I think, like with some of the feminists at the time, believed in the right to vote, or like equal rights for women, but not domestic servants. And this is of her time, I do understand that, but I just found it so strange that you could call yourself effeminate and not.
But Caitriona, other writers like Lucia Berlin, which she's written a brilliant book, A Manual for Cleaning Women, and Rachel Cusk and Lavinia Greenlow and other women writers that you went to, you could connect with them, couldn't you, what they were saying?
Yeah, and I went back to them. So it wasn't a deliberate thing. When I was writing something, I would think, oh, I've read this before. I've read, especially Lucia Berlin with her cleaning jobs. Like, she wrote beautifully about it, and I could identify with something she said about, I loved what she said, like, always do something a little bit wrong so they know you've done it. So, like, clean behind the fridge and leave the fridge a little bit crooked so they know you've pulled it out to clean it. And I thought, God, I do that. We all do that too, just to show how thorough we've been. So it was more, I would be trying to write something and then it would occur to me, oh, this person has written. Or Rachel Cusk, I remember written, I'd read her A Life's Work years ago, and was it a taximeter is affixed to her or something like that, when you're out after just having a baby and all you can think of is getting back and how do I get back and how far am I from this baby. And
she's very good at that in transit as well, isn't she? She describes all that. But another writer who really influenced you, and you actually wrote to her, was the poet Evan Boland, and we're here in Trinity and the library's named after her. And there was a particular poem, when you read it, Caitriona, you just went, oh my gosh. So will you tell us a little bit about that, what the poem was? So it was soon after my first child was born, and like I said, she had a birth injury and feeding was extremely difficult, so I couldn't breastfeed, it wasn't possible, and bottle feeding was incredibly difficult. But I found that sometimes out in public people would judge me or say, oh, you should be breastfeeding, why aren't you? There seemed to be quite a bit of judgment for some reason. And then I was reading poetry and books and trying to, read about motherhood, and it seemed to all be about breastfeeding. And I just felt kind of cut off from this like mother-child unit. And then I came across Evan Boland's Night Feed, which for some reason, like, I got to the age of 38 without hearing about it or reading it. And I read it and I was waiting for her to say the baby at the breast. And then the phrase, I crooked the bottle, and I thought, oh wow, she's written a beautiful poem about a bottle feed, like there can be beauty in it. And it was just, I couldn't believe it. I read it and it was late at night. I remember my daughter was right beside me, kind of clamped to my leg, and I wrote to Evan. I looked for an email address for Evan, and I found she was teaching in Stanford at the time. And I immediately wrote to her, and I didn't write as a writer. I didn't even say I was a writer. I was just as a mother who's just had a difficult birth and bottle feeding, and I wrote just what her poem meant to me. And by the time I got up, like the next day or whatever, checked the email, she had written back. Like, imagine, she'd wrote back the most gorgeous email, really supportive, and saying something like, when she had her daughters, there wasn't the judgment that we have to endure now, and it's very hard, and you're doing your best. And it was just life affirming. She was an amazing woman. Yeah, she was. And even when that collection came out at the time, it was considered unusual and different, So, and it's amazing that years later it still jolted you and made you reach for the pen to write to her. And she was amazing to write back. Yeah, so it's so lovely to go over and see the library now named after her. But Caitriona, speaking of Evan and the poem, it would be lovely if you could read Night Feed for us. For those of you who haven't heard it, if it's your first time, you're in for an absolute treat, because it is a wonderful poem. But imagine you've got a wonderful writer who's going to read it for you as well now. So Caitríona Lally is going to read Night Feed by Evan Boland.
Night Feed. This is dawn. Believe me, this is your season, little daughter. The moment daisies open, the hour mercurial rainwater makes a mirror for sparrows. It's time we drowned our sorrows. I tiptoe in. I lift you up, wriggling, in your rosy zipped sleeper. Yes, this is the hour for the early bird and me, when finder is keeper. I crook the bottle, how you suckle. This is the best I can be, housewife to this nursery, where you hold on, dear life. A silt of milk, the last suck, and now your eyes are open, birth-coloured and offended. Earth wakes. You go back to sleep, the feed is ended. Worms turn, stars go in, even the moon is losing face. Poplars stilt for dawn, and we begin the long fall from grace. I took you in.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Caitriona. So I just want to say you're such a warm audience, and it's lovely to be here. And I want to thank Caitríona Lally, because it was so interesting to hear you talking about the memoir, and the best of luck with it, Caitriona. And all details of this book will be available on our website, Books for Breakfast. But it would be wonderful now, I think, to open it to the floor. I could see you all listening it with great attention and smiling and enjoying it, because there is great humour in the book as well. But Peter's got his mic there and he's going to go roving around with it. So if anyone would like to ask a question, put up your hand. And as Tess said, if anyone wants to wait till afterwards and they don't want to be on the recording, that's absolutely fine as well. So we're going to open it to the floor now.
I have a question about the Trinity parts of the book. I loved how clean and engaging the prose was. And I wondered about the editing process, if it involved a lot of editing and revision. And I also thought, as I read, because sometimes I felt like secrets were being revealed, and it was very endearing. Like, it's such a charming book. Like, I felt like I was sitting with a friend and being told secrets. And I wondered if there were things that you had to get approval, or that there were things that you couldn't include in the book. Because there are so many it's not that, it's salacious and you're naming names or anything like that. But there's a lot of moments where personal things are revealed because of the nature of the work that you're doing at Trinity. So those two were kind of interesting questions to me. Thank you.
Thanks. So the editing process was interesting. The chronology was simple. I basically wrote from kind of, say, 2015, when Eggshells, my first book, came out, until 2021, when Wunderland, my second book, was published. So the editing, it wasn't that extreme because the chronology is there. Like, it was easy to follow. Where my editor and my agent were really useful on was, who are you in this? And that was a question I kind of had to answer early on, because it was, are you a student of Trinity, or are you a cleaner? Because, you're complaining about students, but you were that student. So who are you in this? Or are you a writer? And it made me sit and think, okay, am I a cleaner? Am I a writer? Am I a former Trinity student? And that clarified stuff for me. It made it tighter, because I then addressed it, I suppose, the identity crisis of, what do I put on the census form? Am I a cleaner? Am I a writer? And the identity changes throughout the book. So that's where the editing came in. There wasn't that much of the kind of nitty-gritty editing. I remember at the start, the first version, my agent helped me through it, and it was too dark. And because it was too much I was using old files written kind of just after my daughter was born or just after she was sick. And that was too dark. And she said, okay, we need more light-hearted moments. That there are but light-hearted moments, but draw it out. And so I did learn from that, okay, you can go dark, but intersperse it with light. And it's a useful lesson. And the Trinity thing was interesting. I gave the edited draft to the publisher, and they went to the legal department. And so they had a lawyer check it over for two things: the cleaning in Trinity, that I don't, I suppose, libel or slander anyone, and my daughter's birth, because I do go into what went wrong. Now, I don't name the hospital, but I do name various things along the way that caused her birth injury, and that obviously is libelous if I've got it wrong, because it is based on my memory as well. But everything was cleared for. I hadn't said anything. Now, my co-workers, that's the other part. I have given away trade secrets, like they kind of always carry a prop. When you're going to chat to your colleagues in a different area, you carry a cleaning spray and a cloth, and you look purposeful. And so my co-workers are like, why did you say that? Why did you give that away? So, I'm still friends with the women, and I don't want to offend them. So that was a big thing for me, that when they read it, that they wouldn't feel patronised or that I'd given away too much.
What kind of reaction did you get from them?
Positive so far. There was a bit of doubt at the start. I didn't show it to people. I showed certain parts to people who were named in it or identifiable. And everyone passed and said, that's fine. I didn't show the full book to anyone except my partner. I felt that the cleaners probably wouldn't want the trade secrets out there. But then it's all covered. It's how would I say? It's said with a good heart. Like, it's overall, like, say my cleaning boss came to my book launch, and she had heard me on the radio talking about cleaning that day, and she was saying, I'm delighted you're saying this. Like, it's great, you might as well. And we said, we know the secrets. We know you're all going for breaks here and there, but as long as the work gets done, and that's it. Like, that's the main thing. You do your work. You might have a sneaky break, but...
Well, I thought it was so interesting that you talked about, kind of having almost an equal reverence and love for your domestic work, your cleaning, your raising your children, and your creative work, all three of which are, as you mentioned, very invisible labors, but with such wildly different payoffs. And so I'm curious what aspects of each of those you're sort of drawn to and how you feel about the different fruits of those labors, so to speak.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose I hadn't really thought about that they are all invisible. When the payoff for the writing, while I've talked about like financially, is not great, but the rewards are amazing, and the status of being a writer and a published writer is huge. Just like in Ireland, the people are, you're really looked up to, and I find that kind of strange sometimes when it is just a form of work. The cleaning is invisible. I have, reverence is a good word. I just like the domestic sphere, and at home with the kids, like, I don't clean. I'm a terrible cleaner. And that's why I loved, like, Dearne Grifa, Ghost in the Throat. I waited until I'd finished mine before I read her memoir. And I was like, wow, she's just a brilliant cleaner. Like, she's a domestic goddess. And my house is filthy. And I think because I clean in work, I keep it at work. I don't take it home with me. So it's very different. Like, with me, with the kids, it's playing with them. And it's kind of, I suppose I'm an older mother, so I'm realising they're only small for so long that I just want to play and have fun with them, and we're not big on rules or anything. So the payoff, they're very different, aren't they? Like, there's money in one, like there's money in cleaning, there's a little bit of money and big respect in writing. Motherhood is a funny one because you're adored by your kids, but everyone else tells you what you're doing wrong and what you should be doing. But they just seem to tie in. Like, if I got a bit more sleep, the three would work perfectly, I think. It's,
So I know that many writers have very specific routines, habits, and I also know from having younger siblings that they can be a force of chaos. So how did your experience writing, either in the style or the process, how did that change and evolve as you had your children, and have they had any effect on you in that way?
Good question. Writing late at night now is mostly when it happens. So, and that's probably a different style. Like, that's maybe where the writing can be darker, because it literally is dark. The house is quiet. So it's kind of snatching time where you can get it. There's no, like, I used to write, I'd finish at 9:30 in the morning before I had kids, come out, go to the National Library and work there. And that was a brilliant routine. But when the kids came, it's just snatched moments. Like, there's no daily routine at all. And I don't know about America, but there's a lot of school holidays here and midterm breaks and just random days off that, there's a constant juggle. Like, I think the practicalities knock me over a lot. Like, it's just, oh God, okay, there's a random day off here, a random day off, or somebody is sick. And then, like, I remember my editor saying when I was working on this book, and she was saying, wow, you keep late hours, because I had sent her back a draft at 3 a.m. And it was like, but my kids are off this week. This is the only time I can get to it, So it just, that's where practically it comes. It's just snatching clumps of hours. I have brilliant parents, but I don't want to dump on them. So, like, when the kids were small, when I was on maternity leave, they were amazing. They came every Friday in both maternity leaves and gave me a few hours, which was it just opened up the week for me, where you knew you could get a clump of writing done.
So that goes back to the form again, Caitriona, doesn't it? And sometimes Caitriona might just write in 2 lines and that's it, and then you move on to the next. I love that. It's kind of a collage, isn't it?
Exactly. And it comes from having scraps of notes, just putting together literally bits on the back of an envelope or from a post-it note. And
anyone else? This is all giving us great hope, isn't it? So snatch time whenever you can and just bring your envelope and scribble down. Anyone else?
Yeah. Amazing readings. And just what you were saying about, like, snatching time really made me think of, like, Sharon Olds running off the dock and writing on scraps of paper, like Emily Dickinson. I know you had said which writers you feel would not be good cleaners or don't have a good relationship to that. Do you have writers who you think maybe would and appreciate, I guess?
That is a great question. Okay. I'm thinking any of the kind of, how do you say, earthy, like, writers, the down-to-earth ones, I think would be, and that speak about money. Like, I think if you're up in the clouds, it's a different relationship with cleaners or practical work. I'm thinking of Deborah Levy. Do you know her the living autobiographies she wrote, The Cost of Living, Real Estate? things I have learned. There's a trilogy of living autobiographies, and they're amazing. And she talks a lot about money. You know, she's going through a divorce. She's trying to set up a separate home for her daughters, and it's all practicalities. I was rereading them recently, thinking, wow, she just sets it all out there. So I like those ones, and I'm trying to think, who was it that wrote on vaccination? She's an American memoirist. Who did that? Yes, Eula Biss. Yes. So she wrote about money too. She had a brilliant memoir again about money and exactly how much she's earned and how much her mortgage cost her, all this. And again, it's so detailed about money. I love that. I want more of that honesty in writing.
Yeah, Deborah Levy, she's brilliant, isn't she?
She's
Unbelievable.
amazing. Yeah.
I think we're going to bring it to a happy ending, because we had a really lovely time talking to Caitriona, and thank you so much. Thank you so much to everybody here from Carlow Pittsburgh MFA programme, and for Caitríona Lally, I think we should give her a really big round of applause. Say thank you very much, Caitriona. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we've reached the end of our Books for Breakfast podcast this morning. I'm definitely rushing off to have more coffee, and I'm Enda Wiley, and I have Peter Sir here with me. And Peter, would you like to tell everyone about the details of the podcast if they'd like to listen again?
Well, you can subscribe at all the usual sources, Google and Apple and so on. And if you want to check out the notes that go along with this podcast, you can go to booksforbreakfast.buzzsprout.com. And yeah, so
we'll be back again. We'll have the toast on, we'll have the kettle boiling, we will have more books to discuss, and we're looking forward to having you here. So goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.